Are you the kind of person that is so desperately pleasing other people that is actually detrimental to your mental and physical health? Or perhaps you're the kind of person that gets into a little bit of an altercation, and then when you walk away, you think, oh, I really should have said this and that to argue my point, but I didn't want to push it. Then maybe this podcast is for you. Hello everybody and welcome back to Neurodiversity Support Podcast. My name is Annika. I'm a local neurodivergent and a neurodiversity support specialist. Now today is going to be a really interesting podcast because we're going to be talking about self-advocacy. Now on the surface it might seem a little boring. No, not boring, but irrelevant. But to me it's a really big starting point for neurodiversity support, because if I am not able to effectively communicate, convey, and even negotiate what my needs are, and to advocate for them and to fight for them in a way and to be assertive for the needs that I have, I will not be supported as a neurodivergent. So self-advocacy is really actually the point of departure when it comes to neurodiversity support. But the key, and the very big key, and we're not going to speak so much about the ways we can negotiate, but more so the ways we can identify what our needs are. How do we actually go down to the bone and recognize this is what I need, this is why I'm coping, I don't need to just fall back on going to see my specialist or going to get new meds. Perhaps it might just be a case that I just need to properly identify what my needs are and ask for it. Because sometimes what we don't realize is the self-advocacy is the special ingredient that's missing from our neurodiversity support journey. Now, neurodiversity for the large part is a study that's quite new. He's still a little bit of a baby, and it focuses quite a bit on childhood, adolescence, teens, but not much research is focusing on the transition of teen to young adult to mature adult to menopausing adults. These are things that aren't really there for us, and that is the reason why the value of Neurodiversity Support Podcast is so important to us, because it gives us the opportunity to hear the experiences of neurodivergence, to have that voice of neurodivergence of South Africa heard, so we can see and identify the patterns, the way we can improve, but also to learn from each other, So what happened for the mature neurodivergent of South Africa is when they were younger, during apartheid, or even pre-apartheid, or even just post-apartheid, that there wasn't much research or dialogue about neurodiversity. So there wasn't nearly any support given to those individuals. And what we're focusing on today, more than anything, is how, as a child, not just cognitive development, but emotional and psychological development, they were in a position where their needs were not being met, right? So as a little baby child, being unable to sit still, for instance, and being told, hoekom kan jy nie still sit nie? Ek can't even dyslexic that sentence there. As a child being said, why can't you sit still? What is the matter with you? Why don't you listen? Being punished and being thought of that something is wrong with you. As a child, not having the tools and the understanding that nothing was wrong with you at all. You were just not being accommodated. Your needs were not being met. And now, those are the adults that have been raised and brought up with that skewed vision of themselves, that skewed feeling of, I'm not normal, I'm weird, something's wrong with me, I'm a little bit quirky. I hear that one a lot, I'm quirky. And those things have come from a place where my needs were not being met. I was labeled, I was not cared for the way I was supposed to, not because my parents were not good parents, but because society as a whole failed your parents and your teachers from not knowing. I mean, what does Maya Angelou say? Like, when you know better, you do better. And they didn't know better. So no one's necessarily to blame. What we are focusing on is that the adults now, as neurodivergents, have to focus on rewriting that script, refocusing what is my self-concept as a neurodivergent. Am I weird? Is there something wrong with me? Or did I grow up in a little bit of a ill-informed society at the time, right? So understanding that, we're going to look through the lens of Suggestopedia. Now, Suggestopedia is essentially this theory that's especially used in education that says that your self-concept, assuming that your self-concept is divided into eighths, only 1/8 is direct conversation with self. Now, I'm going to put a pin in that one because we need to discuss it on its own. But the rest of the 7/8 is formed through suggestions within the environment. That meaning that if you are in a neurotypical world that says amazing people are like this, like they always talk about social media's beauty standards, but there's also social media success standards, intelligence standards. What I'm talking about is like, for you to meet the markers of success, beauty, intelligence, thriving, you need to look a certain way. You need to be a square in a square hole. And that's not the way it is for neurodivergent. So when society says to be successful, you need to be very motivated, work quickly, work hard, not take too much breaks, that kind of dialogue, that kind of suggestions, then create your self-concept that, oh my goodness, I don't work hard enough. I'm not that motivated. Life is not easy for me. Then your self-concepts become a little bit skewed because I'm not meeting those things, so something must be off about me. I'm not able to read that easily. Something's off about me. Why can't I read as well as some of these people do? Then those suggestions from your environment, and I'm talking about literally in movies, in songs, on posters of the wall, in advertising, in everything. Those are the suggestions in your environment that form your self-concept. Now, what is the problem with that? The suggestions is coming from a narrative of a neurotypical world. So the suggestions are saying, the teacher says, this is going to be a really difficult test, guys. And the reason why she says that is because she's trying to motivate the kids to study harder for the test. And then you do write the test, and it's not a little bit difficult, it's very, very, very difficult. And then you go outside of the test, and then you ask your friends about it, and they're like, bro, that was an easy test. And then you think, wait, it wasn't even a little bit difficult, it was very difficult, and they're saying it's easy. And then you internalize that and you form the self-concept of something is wrong with me, I'm slow, I don't work as fast. Another example of it that I see quite often is parents want to motivate their children to study hard, and they say, this is a very important exam, this is a really important exam, you got to work hard. And then the child that does work very hard and doesn't get the mark that they expect themselves to get in line with the amount of work that they did, then said, because you said to be successful I must work hard, but because I have dyslexia and ADHD and sensory processing issues, that I didn't get the marks that I thought I was supposed to get, that the neurotypical world is getting, that something is very, very wrong with me. And so what we take from that is that the suggestions from our environment has not just self-concept impact, but also a psychological and deeply emotional response within us, that we do feel anxiety and we do feel sad and we do feel remorseful because of those suggestions. And sometimes the suggestions, like the mom is saying, work hard, this is a very important issue, you have to work hard to do well, is coming from a place of trying to motivate and trying to get them to be motivated because they lack motivation, but doesn't have the same response within the child. Now, the same happens for an adult neurodivergent when suggestions do not hit the way that it was intended to be delivered to you, because perceptions are not the same for neurotypicals and neurodivergents. So your suggestions in your environment is key, meaning that as a neurodivergent, if you want to ease the suggestions' impact on you, or if you want to actually rig the system and have the cheat codes for it, you then purposefully put positive suggestions in your environment. Surround yourself with people that say positive things to you, that says, it's okay, you're doing your best, well done, this is good. Not the complete extreme, we're like, this is easy, you got this. And then when it's not easy, then you're like, why is it not easy? Something's wrong with me. Don't fall to the other side of the spectrum. We just want a good medium where it's just supportive. The dialogue is supportive, caring, accommodating, and helping you to be your best self. That includes posters on the wall saying, it's okay to be neurodivergent. We love the fact that you're neurodivergent. Progress looks different for everybody. Those kind of suggestions is what your neurodivergent self-concept needs from you. Now let's talk about that one little eighth that we packed away. That eighth is so important because that is the dialogue of self. And I'm going to go back to the neurodivergent that was a child during apartheid era, that is now a menopausal lady or older chappie, because if your self-concept was being formed during a time that your neurodiversity was not quite understood, then your dialogue with self was mostly modeled by people that were not saying the best of things to you, like your teachers. Why can't you sit still? Why don't you do that? The criticism of your behavior over and over and over. Then quite a bit of that is internalized. Maybe not for everybody, and if yours isn't, if that's not the case for you, I'm so happy for you. But it is, unfortunately, for the most part, the reality for most, is that the dialogue with self, you are so hard on yourself. You gaslight yourself. You say to yourself, why can't you get this right? Why are you taking so long? Why is it so difficult for you to leave the house? Why can't you just get in the car and go? That is unfair. That is so unfair. And that suggestions that you forming within your self-concept is deeply unfair and has a ripple effect. Now, when you saying to yourself, I'm going to advocate for self, you need to advocate for yourself within yourself. And I know that's a bit of a tongue twister, but that's the truth. You need to say to yourself, you know what? It's okay. I'm not a bad person for saying, I want to leave in the middle of my sister's birthday party because I'm getting sensory overload. You're not a bad person for saying that's not where I'd like to go because it's not the kind of place that's conducive for me. Seeing yourself as worthy to negotiate for your needs, to advocate for the things that you need is so, so important. And that is why it is the starting point. Because if you do not see yourself as worthy to ask for the needs that you have, who is going to do it? It's you that needs to do it. You need to surround yourselves with people that will say, you know what, Annika, you need to say and speak up that this is not something that's working for you. You need to say that this is bothering you. You need to ask for them to back up off of you. You need to say that that is too loud for you. You don't want it like that. But the starting point is saying, I am worthy. I am worthy to ask for these needs. It is not me inconveniencing the people around me. It is not me being too much or too loud. It's not me being unreasonable. The key of being able to advocate for self and to find your empowerment as a neurodivergent is to have people in your life that see it as the superpower that it is. And I know sometimes it doesn't feel like a superpower. It feels debilitating and it feels treacherous and it feels tiresome. But every single day, one step at a time, you overcome. Every single day, one step at a time, you see the light of day the next day. And it feels tiring and you feel like your cup is empty, but you will get there and you are worthy of it. You are worthy of asking for your needs. And you need to say that to yourself, and you need to remind yourself, and you need to write it on the wall, write it on your mirror in lipstick, put it on your wallpaper so that the suggestions in your environment is constantly reminding you that you are worthy to ask for your needs, to advocate for yourself, and empower yourself to be able to be properly supported as the neurodivergent you are. That was a lot. I feel like I'm actually preaching to myself because I think it's something that 99.999% of neurodivergents struggle with, especially in South Africa where there's not much incentive for neurodiversity support. And we're going to fix that. We are going to fix that. We are going to fix the fact that neurodiversity needs a platform in South Africa, and we're doing that together as a neurodiversity support community. Now, if you'd like to join our neurodiversity support community, you can join us on Neurodiversity Support Group on Facebook. And it's a growing group, and we want to talk about our neurodiversity on that group, share our experiences, ask our questions that we can talk about and raise during our podcast. Next week, we have another amazing neurodivergent that's going to share their story, share the narrative as a South African neurodivergent, and I can't actually wait to hear it because it's a very, very interesting guest. See you then next week, and thank you so much for joining me. Have a lekker evening and enjoy the Rugby World Cup. See you next week. Bye.